Oops. Okay, so this is an extra perk I'm doing for my class that I'm teaching at the Art League. It's and what I'm doing is I'm going to be working further on my demonstration that I've been working on for my students, and we are copying Chardin's. We're doing a master copy of a Chardin still life, and so I was able to demonstrate for about 30 minutes last in class. So as an extra perk, I've offered to start doing an hour demonstration on Instagram. So to kind of further elaborate and develop in it, and the setup I wasn't able to get as far as I wanted to with the class. So I thought it would be a good opportunity to do this. So I'm using a photo reference that I received from the museum that has this painting, and I'm trying to get my first layer in, and it's already set up. I use lead white, so it sets up fast. And so from this week, from Tuesday, everything I laid down on Tuesday has already set up. So that's one of the benefits of using lead white, is that it sets up really quickly, usually within 24 hours. Where like if I was using a titanium white, even the Gamblin flake white replacement, which items stay open for 5 to 7 days, and sometimes even longer, depending on how humid the weather is at the time. So I'm just going to get started. So I do want to get this background in over here. So I'm going to do that. Now, Chardin, this painting was completed in about, I think, 1730s. I think it was like 1728 to 1730. So the colors are going to be, he used a pretty traditional color palette of like burnt umber, lead white, ivory black, burnt sienna, which is transparent red oxide, PR. I use modern pigments. And what I do when I do a master copy like this, I like to use my modern palette. So I have cadmium colors, I have cobalt colors. Because my goal is to learn how to paint like this by using the tools that I use every day. I'm not trying to recreate a historic piece. I'm trying to learn. I want to learn and absorb the ideas of this painting technique. So that's what I'm going to do today. When starting a painting, I liked still life painting. I like to work back to front, and so like for the class demonstration, I put in the immediate background so I could work on the picture. I really wanted to work on this. I was hopeful that I'd get to here in the class demonstration. I wasn't able to. So what I'm going to do is, I'm trying to think what to do. So I also like to always have a plan when I get back into a painting, and I don't have a plan yet, which usually by this time I do have a plan, but it was a busy morning, but now I am here and I'm engaged. And so what I am thinking is to warm me up and get the paint juices going. I'm going to lay in this background, and it'll just, you know, I may not lay over here, but I want to get this area, and I just want to get my body moving. And then I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to develop this lid and the hinge to about the same level of completion as this guy is. Whoops, I smeared something on this guy. And then you know, I'll start moving down like I had planned on yesterday. I like warming up into a setup. So I'm going to start with some ultramarine blue and burnt umber and a little bit of burnt sienna, transparent red oxide. So let's get So I have not stretched this canvas. This is a study, so I didn't go to the effort of stretching it. I am making it a 24 by 18, so it's 24 inches tall by 18 inches wide. The original painting is about is a little bit over 21 inches in height and 18 inches wide. So, but I made this size so that way it's also a good size to fit into a standard size frame. If I should decide to move it, you know, move it on to. Let's see, any questions? Nope. If you have any questions, you're always welcome to ask. So I'm using a big brush. I'm using one of my favorite background brushes, which is a number. Let's see. Can you see that? Does it come through? Where? Right here. It's a Rosemary Classic Filbert. It's a size number 8. I love rosemaries, and I only, like for 99.9% of my painting, I use hog bristle brushes. I sign with sables, and I will do some painting with sable and mongoose, but usually that's my figurative stuff. Needs to be lighter. So I started out with my really deep colors, were ultramarine blue and burnt umber, but as it lightens up, I'm mixing and a little bit of burnt sienna, but as I'm moving over, I'm mixing a little bit of Cremnitz white into my mixture, and let's see, burnt sienna, and I'm actually mixing in a little bit more ivory black. Ivory black, when it mixes, will start to sheen, like it shifts blue. In fact, I have it, it's covered. So and the way the screen is, I don't have but let's see. It's now covered with my magnet too, but in class, you can see right here. Let's see. I'm using a magnet to hold up. This is a very pale tint of straight ivory black and Cremnitz white. A little bit more ivory black and Cremnitz white, and then this is burnt sienna, transparent red oxide. And when I put these marks to show in my demonstration in the class on Tuesday morning, is how blue pure ivory black shifts when it's a pure tint, and then also how orange transparent red oxide burnt sienna PR101 shifts orange when it's also tinted as well. Okay. And as I get further along in this painting, I'll lift up the setup, my setup, and okay. That needs to be a little bit. Nope, that's right. That's about right. Which paper do you use for painting? I am not using paper. I'm using an oil primed linen. It just happens to be flat. I don't have it stretched. I have a magnetic marker board that I'm using as my like substrate that I'm attaching it to. Just it's holding it up. So I'll paint on paper. I'm a never say never kind of person, but you won't see me I don't paint on, like, it would have to be gesso. You know, I gesso it with 4 layers of gesso whenever I do paint on paper. Okay, so now I need to raise this up a bit. Okay. That needs to go deeper in value. And I need to make sure it's soft and feathered. Okay, so, and I want that to go darker. So, oops, too high. I'm a shorty. Let's see. That's better. Okay. Let's get that a bit darker. So this first layer that I did on Tuesday was I thinned down with a lot of OMS. So this is a little bit more fatter. It's got I'm not thinning it down today at all. It's got, it's just straight from the paint tube. So I am, honoring my fat over lean methodology. And yeah, that's really nice. It's really black over here. So that means lots of layers of glaze. I'm going to have to use some glazes to make that really deep black over here. Okay. I'm going to start laying here, and I want this first layer to be really soft, and so I just got a new Rosemary Classic. This is their This is the series 2045. Rosemary brushes are particularly soft, and so they tend to have really, really soft, brushy, blended, melting edges. They just inherently do that. Where I do tend to favor my Traquel extra long filberts, the 400 MKF series. This is a size number 3. This is one of my favorite sizes. And I probably will work into it, but I have a very soft blended edge here and here, so I'm choosing to go with a rosemary just to help me with my edge control right off the bat. Okay. So I'm gonna, nope, needs to be more blue. So I'm using a mixture of cobalt blue and burnt sienna, transparent red oxide, to be my base pewter mixture here. Like I said, even though Chardin painted in the 1730s, so that would be the 18th century, I don't replicate historic color palettes when I am painting. Are you starting with medium value or local color first? Brandy, that's a really good question. It's a little bit of both. Right now, I'm starting with what I think is the best, like, basic, it's what it is, the dark value that I see in this lid, but I'm also aiming for accurate local color. So I mixed a gray that has got quite a bit of blue in it because that's what I see on my computer monitor. Hi there, Cheryl. And so I'm just, and with metal, when I paint metal, this is my idea about painting metal, is that you paint first like that basic, deep, like underlying metal color. So, and then you start to add the reflections on top of it. And Patty, the pewter color is with cobalt blue and burnt sienna. However, like burnt sienna, I use Winsor Newton burnt sienna, which is PR 101, which is transparent red oxide. So if you're like using Michael Harding colors, it's called transparent red oxide. So but if you say you bought the Vasari burnt sienna, you wouldn't be getting PR 101. You would be getting a PBR, a pigment brown pigment instead of. So I tend to say both. I identify both because it depends on what manufacturer you're using. Okay, so. So then, there. It's going to require more from me, but for now, I'm just going to put that in. Let's see. Oops. Okay. Got a lot of glare. I tend to like to get in front of my camera. Oops. Sorry for knocking the needs to be darker. I need to get closer to this painting. So I don't know if I'm trying not to stand in front of the camera, but I'm going to actually just move it closer to me. So that, let me focus. It's a little bit of glare today, but that allows me to get closer to, because I was standing a little bit too far away. So I love, one of the things that I absolutely love about painting with filbert brushes is that you can, the shape of the brush allows for such versatility of brush stroke. You can lay down like fat and flat, like that. And then with a fully loaded brush, you can also do a thin. And I really love that versatility of how, you can get an edge too, where sometimes, like I used to experiment with different brush types, like the rounds. I used to experiment a lot with rounds because I wanted to see what I could, what I could accomplish with a round, and you can accomplish a lot with a round as well. So I just shifted my mixture with a little bit of cerulean, and to make that a little bit darker, a little bit bluer. And when I'm painting, I also paint, I'm very happy to, especially with a master copy, I am very happy to just slow down. I really do, I will purposely slow down when copying a master copy. When I copied the Jan David's Dehiem painting at the Vase of Flowers at the National Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C., I struggled initially because I was just, I was impatient to make progress. But then one day, as I was like commuting in to the National Gallery of Art in front of my session there, I realized what I wanted to do is I really wanted to paint accurately. I wanted to slow down and paint as accurately as I observed. So to me, so from that day on, I set a goal that, and if I had to spend my entire day and I only covered and mastered a 2-inch by 2-inch pace of that flower painting, so be it. That's how long it would take me to truly understand it, to really dissect and break down the painting. And and I worked on the Dehiem painting for a total of 20, let's just say it was over 20 visits to the National Gallery of Art, where I painted from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. every day, or one day a week. And I took a 1 hour lunch break just because it was pretty tiring. And the amazing thing was, yes, those first 2 weeks after I made that decision, I only was able to cover like 2 inches by 2 inches in my session. In my 10 to 4, so that's with an hour lunch break. So that's a 5-hour painting day. But what was amazing is, took about 3 weeks, all of a sudden, it's like I started to speed up. And it was a different type of speed. It wasn't a fast rush speed, but it was a speed of like comprehension. It's like I knew what I needed to do. And so for my students that are tuned in right now, what I'd like to encourage you guys to do is also to embrace that idea of exploration, and to take the effort of that you have to get this done by a certain time, and instead slow down the process. I picked this setup because as a whole it has this picture, it has these peaches, some plums, peaches, and 2 walnuts. So you can set some goals of that first layer of painting can get done. Give yourself, like, say, an hour to do this, an hour to do that, maybe another hour to do this area, maybe 2 hours to do the peaches, an hour to do the plum, and an hour to do the peach and the walnuts. And and if an hour isn't enough, give yourself grace and give yourself an hour and a half or 2 hours, and strive for the idea of comprehension, like understanding and comprehension, then speed. Painting is I also like to think of painting as a form of meditation. You're engaging your mind. You're training your mind to concentrate, and that's a muscle that needs to be exercised every day. So how do anybody get a chance to go and paint at the National Gallery? Well, they have a really nice program. You apply for it, and then if you get accepted, and I've never heard of anybody who doesn't get accepted. You get accepted, and then you go in, and then such good advice. I wish I could stay and watch, but I have to run. Okay, thank you, Liz. I love this little story. It is a formal program. Anyone can apply, but you need to submit your work. Yes, an affidavit. Yes, that's true, Anka. That's great advice, Joyce. Yep, thank you, Joyce. Okay, so now, this is my first layer of paint, so I'm not gonna like render this to completion. What I'm doing is I'm just trying to get a couple of color notes and value setups in place, and so I'm gonna do that. This is a pure tint. I have a dirty brush, but I mixed a pure tint of bright sienna and white. It's a little bit lighter in value here. This is me mixing on the canvas. I'm using my white tint, and I'm mixing in with that underpainting of wet that I laid in. Okay, so I'm working a big brush, so I'm not messing with that hinge. That's gonna have to get refined. I'm gonna lay down some paint to kind of get the big shapes in, but I'm not refining. This is not the time in my painting process to refine that hinge. It's the time to get my shapes right, like the sizes right, and to kind of just get some accuracy. Okay, so that's working out. So what I need to do is let's see. So I'm dropping like a plumb line, and that's where the end of the hinge is. That helps me place it. And then I'm going to just paint that kind of area. Okay, so pretty soon I'm going to be able to, oops, what did I do? I stuck my brush into something I didn't mean to. That's okay. There we go. There's more going on this lid, but for now, this is what I need. You know, I don't need much more information. I need to get this guy, that shadow, that shape, and that, oops. I'm just going for big shapes right now. Kind of work and get the shape of the, I'm just working down, but I'm not gonna do tons because I've already kind of like this first layer of shape that I have for this handle. I need to put in some dark value, so I'm gonna do that real quick, and then I want to move down. I want to get to another area, but first I need to get that dark value in. And then the light value in. So my pewter has been almost exclusively cobalt blue and PR101, pigment red 101, which depending on the manufacturer, it's either burnt sienna, like Winsor Newton calls it burnt sienna, Michael Harding calls it transparent red oxide. And so, and then I've augmented every so often I'm augmenting the paint mixture with a little bit of cerulean blue to make it go a little bit cooler and get that green of the tarnish in. Okay, so I've been using rosemary brush because they tend to make such soft blended edges, which is a nice little perk. So knowing your materials is so helpful. Knowing knowing what their characteristics are. When I first started using rosemary, the fact that they would get so soft so fast, and it drove me nuts because there's certain areas in a painting that I want to have more control, and where like it's by paint pressure alone that I can control my painting effect, which is why I like Trekell so much. But then so I have Trekell and I have rosemary brushes and I have a couple of other brands that I use periodically. And so now what I do is as where I'm at in my painting, what my goal is with the painting is how I move forward and make my decision. And yeah, it goes up here. So, okay. So now I need to squeeze out more paint. Okay, let's move this up for you guys and me. Okay, let's see. Is the rosemary brush bristle filbert? Yes, it is. And I'm using, oh my goodness, this one. It's a brand new brush and it wore out, but I think I've got another one. Okay. It's a number 4, and it's a classic filbert is what I'm using. I hate it when the paint the label falls apart on it. But c'est la vie. Okay. So what I need to do is I want to move on to, the peach and the intersection. I want to work here. So I'm working in my adjacencies. I need to get some more paint up. I've gone through some of my paint. Pretty stiff. Oh boy. So what I'm noticing is, okay, so this is actually bluer than what I laid down yesterday, so I'm gonna adjust that. It's darker, and what I noticed is I drew, that's where the top of that is. So I need to make sure I put that in and get that edge the way I want it to. I see. And then there's this. It's darker than what I had it. Okay. So even early in this stage, I start thinking about my edge. I'm always thinking about my edges, and what I'm noticing is Chardin made, which makes sense, he made this area right here a lost edge, and that's probably because of the form is round. It's a much softer edge, and so I'm going to soften that. And the only thing that's distinguishing between the two areas is value. So I need to, and it's just a wee bit lighter. So, like, one of the things is, like, why does someone want to spend, like, their precious painting time? Because let's face it, painting time is precious, no matter if it's a hobby or a career. Every minute behind the easel is precious. So why would someone spend so much, like, hours, like I spent 20 plus weeks, 1 day a week, copying at the National Gallery of Art. Why do you do that? What's the value in doing that? And the value is I think it's one of the fastest ways to learn painting techniques. Like, if there's something, like if there's an artist that you admire, Pam, yes, it would, if you warmed it with a yellow, there is a chance that it would start to shift a bit green. But there are green notes in this pewter pitcher. So that that might be the solution. Okay. So what was I saying? I can't remember. Why do you spend effort and precious painting time and that's also a kind of a lost edge. It starts to melt more. Copying, and my thought about this is because it's the fastest way to learn even how to see objects. So, for example, I don't have a picture exactly like this. I have very different pictures. I do have some pewter pictures, but they're different. But by copying how Chardin treated certain areas and method, aspects of this picture, it gives me an opportunity. So the next time when I'm working, say, on my own, like if I have a silver picture, a pewter picture, it gives me an opportunity to think about, okay, well, Chardin treated this edge like in a specific way. And so it gives me an opportunity, it hints to me that, oh, I need to consider something, and I need to consider that. And so the next time I'm painting, I then, make that, I'll make a concerted effort to look out for, say, do I observe a lost and like melting edge at the same location with my picture? And potentially I will, because one of the reasons why you have that is because the form, if it's a round form, as it goes around, you don't get a hard edge visually. You do get a softened melting edge, just because of the physics of how light reflects and bounces off of a rounded edge, a rounded form, versus a hard rectilinear form with flat planes. Okay, so I think I've got this, I'm getting that sorted better. So now I can move to here and get that. That's a little bit lighter in value than what I had. And this is a lot lighter right here. Nope, too light. I love oil paint. You can like fix things so quickly. Okay, so what time is it? Oh goodness, time is going by fast, and I haven't even gotten to the dang peaches. Okay, so I'm going to try to speed up just a little bit, but my students, I encourage you to not speed up. Don't speed up if you're still, if there's still areas that you think you need, enjoy and slow down. Enjoy that slow pace. Okay, I need to do that, and then okay, let's see. Too light, too dark. Let's see if that's it. That's better. And then just like that. There's much more going on, but I'm not going to do that. Okay, so now for example, Chardin definitely did not have cadmium colors. He had, you know, he had alizarin crimson, which was a fugitive color. He had rose madder, which was a fugitive color. He had transparent red oxide, which is not fugitive. But I'm going to use cadmium red. Okay, hello from Tish. What color are you using for this reflection? So far, right there, I have only used variations of what I've already used for the pewter. So this was straight, this was my tint of burnt sienna, PR 101, and white. Same goes for here, and then like the blue shadow shapes for the different, you know, the different blues that I used for the pewter. So that's, what is that? That's cobalt blue and burnt sienna, and then I think this has a little bit of burnt umber in it because it's more brown. So I'm getting ready to start putting in the reds of the peaches. And so what I was getting at is that I use cadmium colors. I use my modern palette. And so my goal with copying is to use my modern colors. So I'm using Cad Red Medium or Cad Red Deep, because it also, when it starts to mix with other colors, it will gray. So that might be too, no, that's actually pretty close. I'm going to deepen it in value just a little bit. And then this, I'm gonna start with a straight Cad Red Deep. But why am I using Cad Red Deep instead of Cad Medium? Is because Cad Red Deep, when it mixes with other colors, starts to desaturate, where Cad Red Medium will continue to keep its color potency, its color saturation. Cad Red Deep is always out on my palette because it makes some of the best browns and some of the best grays, but I just love it. I love how when you use it straight, it creates it's a beautiful red, but as soon as it starts mixing, it starts to desaturate some, and instead of fighting against that aspect of it, I try to maximize it. I use it for, oh dang it, I can't believe I did that. So this, I'm now got a mixture of burnt sienna and white on a tint. Whenever I use the term tint in class, what that means is it means that it's a pigment, it's a one color pigment mixture with white. So like if I say a burnt sienna tint, that means it's burnt sienna and white. Otherwise, I will typically identify the color recipe. But tint means, for me, the way I think about my color mixing, a tint is one color and white. And I did kind of ruin my brush set. Shucks. Okay, so we got like 5 more minutes at the most before Instagram cuts me off. So let's get into my peaches. My peaches, I need to first get a little bit more. I want to control this edge a little bit more, so I'm going to get that in. Work this a little bit more. And then I need to make a mixture of yellow ochre. So I'm making a mixture of yellow ochre and white. let's see, I don't, too light. So. There, that's better. And when working with yellows, yellow ochre, yellow, cad lemons, cadmium colors, I always do start just a wee bit deeper in value than what I will end up with. And that is because yellows inherently are so light in value that it gives you that wiggle room to adjust and shift your form. It helps you set up your form. Depict and render the form. Okay, so my shape of my peach is wrong. So I'm always, when I'm painting, it's like I lay down and I think, oh, I like that. But if it's incorrect, if I'm not correct, if the form is incorrect, I will correct it. I would much rather have correct form and repaint an area than just fall in love with a painted area and not and keep it incorrect. Okay, so there's pink there. Yep, I'm going to continue with my Cad Red Deep. I'm going to mix in a little bit of yellow ochre into my Cad Red Deep. And then I'm thinning it down some. Let's see. Yeah, that's working pretty good. Okay. Let's see. Okay, that's a little bit more pure Cad Red. Might be a little bit too bright, but we'll see. Just trying to shift the value some. So I have leaves right here and right here, but I'm not going to lay those in right now. I'm going to, oh my goodness, look at that. That's interesting. So I just zoomed in. Oh dear, what did I do? That's interesting. I've never had that happen. Oh, that's why. Okay. Okay, so what I just zoomed into this, and I see right here, guys, my students, make sure you zoom in here, because what's fascinating is I just noticed that's the underpainting right there. He's left his, that's his ground. The ground that he used on the painting, and it looks like it's there too. My ground is a little bit too light to get away, but that's he didn't even lay, it doesn't look like he laid paint there. It's the ground. Fascinating. Copying also is interesting because then you can learn also shortcuts like that. I'm going to darken mine. I'm going to get that in there. And I use, and this is a mixture of cobalt blue and transparent red oxide. And I'm going to do that here too. Okay. There. Okay, so I need to get I'm going to mix in a little bit of ultramarine blue into my Cad Red color, my Cad Red Deep, to get some of that blue in. And I think I am at my, I'm going to be cut off any moment now, guys. I'm going to put that in back here too, and paint in my coarse shadow with Cad Red Deep and ultramarine blue that has, and of course I have a little bit of lead white mixed in, because there's, if I just did Cad Red and ultramarine blue, it would be a deeper value color. I'm gonna get that into there. On this more. Okay. So that's where I'm at right now. Oh, and I didn't notice. Sorry, guys. I did not notice. So my classes or my session with Instagram Live is about over, so let's do a quick summary real quick. Background color is a mixture of ultramarine blue with burnt umber and burnt sienna. PR 101 is the pigment for burnt sienna that I'm using, and some lead white. My pewter colors, which I'm gonna have to fix some drawing stuff. I think I've exaggerated a couple of areas. Is burnt sienna, PR 101, and cobalt blue. Some areas have a little bit of cerulean, so wherever the blue became a little bit more greener, that's with cerulean blue. My highlights for the peaches in the pewter were burnt sienna with white mixed in, and then I used Cad Red Deep as my red. Let's see. Good. Please suggest some good brushes. The two brands I use the most are Rosemary Classic Filberts and Trekell Extra Long. They're extra long filberts. The MKF 400 or 400 MKF and hog bristle. I really only paint with hog bristle for the majority of my time when I paint. And then yellow ochre with Cad Red Deep, and I may have mixed in a little bit of yellow ochre into my Cad Red Deep for the actual peach. And then for the shadow shape, I was using ultramarine blue with Cad Red Deep and a little bit of and like lead white. So I'm using Cremnitz White by RGH right now. There's several lead whites that I like. So Cremnitz White, lead white, they're pretty much all the same. The goal is to get the pigment PW1. That's the